Incredible twist, single mom brings son to blind date. You won't believe what the CEO said. Lisa squeezed Jake's hand as they navigated the bustling streets of their small American town. The flickering neon lights of the diner beckoned them, where the thrill of a blind date awaited. She couldn't shake the weight of her responsibilities, her shift as a waitress, bills piling up, and the constant worry of making ends meet. Yet, she held on to a glimmer of hope that this night could be a brief escape from the ordinary. Jake looked up at her with bright eyes, brimming with excitement. "Mom, can I come?" "You know, sweetie, it's a date." She hesitated, the prospect sending jitters through her stomach. "Are you sure you want to?" "I'll help you," he exclaimed with a bounce. Lisa chuckled, unable to resist. So, here they were, stepping into the diner, the air warm and promising, the aroma of fresh pancakes wrapping around them like an embrace. Settling into a corner booth next to Mark, the high-flying CEO she was supposed to impress, Lisa's heart thumped in her chest. At first, awkwardness layered the conversation like thick syrup on pancakes. Each clumsy question hung in the air, but soon, because of shared laughter, the silliness of their respective worlds began to weave into something warm and inviting. The kitchen sizzled just as their conversations flowed, but then Mark leaned back, smirking as he made a thoughtless remark about the struggles of working-class life. The air shifted, the laughter turned brittle. Lisa's smile faltered, and Jake's little face scrunched up in confusion. Somehow, he saw past the business suit into the hurt that lingered beneath her surface. "Hey. My mom works really hard every day," Jake blurted out, his voice cutting through the noise, a beacon of innocence. The diner fell silent, all eyes turning toward the young boy. Lisa's heart raced and an uneasy mixture of pride and panic swelled within her. She has to serve pancakes and clean tables just to put food on our table and keep our dreams alive. Jake's words echoed, sweet yet piercing, revealing the raw truth of their struggles. It was as if he held up a mirror to the class divide, showcasing the resilience she embodied daily yet underappreciated. Mark's expression shifted. Suddenly, within the confines of their cozy booth, he was faced with a growing realization. His own privilege blurred his empathy. He couldn't comprehend what those late nights of juggling bills felt like, what it meant to risk everything for the sake of family. The walls without were now within, closing in on him. Lisa watched with bated breath, the tension thickened. As Mark opened his mouth to apologize, 1,000 emotions pulsed in the air: anger, vulnerability, hope. She was caught in a tangled web of feelings, torn between the expanses of frustration and the flickering chance of connection. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Mark's gaze was fixed on Jake, the condescension melting away, replaced by a humbling understanding. Lisa felt a tug at her heart. How could she even begin to accept or forgive a man, who, until now, existed in a world so far removed from her own? And as the diner buzzed back to life, their fates intertwined, Lisa knew one thing: this was far more than just a blind date. It was the beginning of something vast and uncharted, a reckoning that required her to navigate through not only Mark's world but her own pulse of truth too. And in that fleeting moment, in the flickering light, everything was about to change. The moment felt electric, charged with a mixture of confusion and anticipation. Lisa cleared her throat, her grip tightening around Jake's small hand. "Mark, I think it's important you understand what Jake was saying," she started, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. "It's not just my job, it's our life. Every day is a battle to keep everything together." Mark nodded slowly, the casual confidence that usually defined him slipping away to reveal a hint of vulnerability. I didn't mean it like that," he said, glancing at the tabletop as if he could find the right words written there. I just assumed assumptions can be dangerous, Lisa interjected, her voice strong. You live in a different world. You get to choose your path, we have to fight for ours. She met his eyes, her heart racing, as she sought to convey more than just words. I'm sorry, he replied, sincerity etched across his face. It was thoughtless of me. I've always been so focused on my career that I lost sight of the realities that others face. I want to learn, if you could just give me a chance. Jake, sensing the shifting tide of their conversation, took a bold leap. Mom, maybe he can help. You always say people can make a difference. Lisa looked down at her son, a mix of pride and fear swirled through her. Could she trust him? Could someone like Mark really want to change? The thought danced in her mind like a flickering candle, a flame of hope hidden beneath a shroud of doubt. Mark took a breath, leaning forward, determination glinting in his eyes. Let me help with your job. I could set up a fundraiser or connect you with someone who can offer resources. I want to be part of something bigger than just numbers and meetings. The diner around them faded. The chatter and clanking of plates felt distant as Lisa weighed his words. Could Mark really understand? Could he bridge the gap between their worlds? The thought sparked a flicker of fear in her chest. The risk of trusting him felt monumental. Jake, sweetie, why don't you grab a milkshake while I talk with Mark for a minute? She suggested, sensing her son needed a moment of joy amidst the seriousness. As Jake dashed off to the counter, Lisa turned back to Mark, feeling the weight of the moment. You have no idea what it's like to struggle for basics, she said quietly. But I can't deny, your offer is tempting. If you really want to help, there's only one way. You need to really see what life is like for us. Mark nodded, the steel in his gaze revealing a newfound determination. I will. I want to learn. I want to be part of the solution, not just the problem. A silence fell between them, thick with unspoken possibilities. The clamor of the diner slowly returned, but it felt different now, a backdrop to the real conversation taking place. As Lisa allowed a small smile to creep onto her face, enchanted by the audacity of hope, she couldn't shake the tension lingering in the corners of her mind. Yes, it was a leap of faith, and maybe they could make this work. Okay, she finally said. Let us see what happens, but if you're going to do this, I'm going to need your full commitment. Mark grinned, the air of reality wrapping around them like a new promise. Just then, Jake returned, a wide straw in hand and pure delight beaming on his face. Guess what, Mom? They have whipped cream. He exclaimed, bouncing back into their booth. Lisa couldn't help but chuckle. I knew they would. As they settled back into their conversation, the possibilities felt endless. Mark's shift wasn't just about him, it was a shift that could impact their lives in ways she hadn't dared imagine before. But deep down, a creeping doubt gnawed at her, a fear of stepping into a relationship that could expose them both to heartache. With their laughter mingling in the air, one question remained suspended: was she ready to trust Mark with the truth of their lives? The evening felt alive, and her heart reluctantly opened to the idea of change. Little did she know, this blind date was only the start of a journey that would test the limits of not only their worlds but each other's resilience. Would they find a way to build a bridge over the chasm that separated them? Lisa took a deep breath, savoring the sweetness of the moment as she watched Jake happily sip his milkshake. But the laughter echoed in the back of her mind, taunting her with uncertainty. Was this all too good to be true? Could she really trust Mark to step into their world? To her surprise, Mark interrupted her thoughts. I really admire how you handle everything. You're doing an incredible job. His voice was sincere. It must be exhausting, though. A warmth spread through her chest, a rare compliment that felt almost foreign. Thank you, she replied softly, caught off guard by his genuine kindness. It can be tough. But I have to be strong for Jake. I can't let him see me fall apart. Mark leaned back, and the weight of their conversation settled between them like a fragile bridge. That makes sense. But you don't have to do it all alone. If I'm going to help, I need to understand what you really face every day. I want to see what strength looks like in your world. Lisa chewed on her bottom lip, tempted to share her struggles yet fearful of revealing so much. It's not pretty, she cautioned, looking at Jake, who was enthusiastically attempting to create a mountain of whipped cream on his milkshake. We deal with bills that pile up, grocery lines that feel endless, and the constant worry. Sometimes it feels like we're drowning. I want to see that, Mark insisted, eyes bright and earnest. Maybe this is the kind of reality check I need. Jake looked over, eyebrows raised in curiosity. What do you mean? Are you coming to live with us or something? Lisa couldn't help but laugh at her son's innocent question. Not exactly, sweetie. But Mark wants to learn about what we go through, and maybe he can really help. Like a superhero. Jake declared, his face lighting up with excitement. Sure, something like that, Mark said, chuckling. Just without the cape. I want to be a part of the solution. Grief and hope danced within Lisa's heart, instantaneously battling it out. Could he, a man from an entirely different universe, really help them? Or would this be another disappointing encounter, where hopes blossomed only to be dashed? After a few moments that seemed to stretch for ages, Lisa nodded. All right, but I'll need your full commitment. That means rolling up your sleeves. It won't be glamorous, trust me on that. I'm all in, Mark replied, his voice firm. The confidence in him was both reassuring and intimidating. Excitement surged through Jake as he bounced in his seat. Can I show him the park? There's this cool treehouse that we can climb. Mark shot a glance toward Lisa, a glimmer of uncertainty in his eyes. But there was a spark, a wild thrill that made it clear this was more than just an offer for help, it was a leap into the unknown. I'd love to check it out, Mark finally said, a lightness in his tone that seemed to fit just right. As they all rose to leave, a feeling of cautious optimism filled the air. Lisa tried to quell the anxiety building inside her, but hope flickered stubbornly like a candle flame dancing in the dark. Outside, the sun was slowly sinking, casting long shadows on the pavement. Lisa felt the weight of the day lift just a little. They walked through the park, Jake leading the way, chattering about imaginary adventures. Mark listened intently, his smile growing with every animated tale. In that moment, maybe they were all superheroes in their own right, set to prove something extraordinary to each other. Yet as Lisa watched Jake beam with joy, a nagging doubt clung to her heart. Was this truly the beginning of something beautiful, or just another fleeting moment that would leave her back where she started? As they reached the park's entrance, Lisa's phone buzzed in her pocket. The message was from her boss, an urgent reminder about a meeting that could change everything. With a heavy heart, she glanced at Mark. What would happen when he discovered this other side of her life? The moment of truth loomed just ahead. As they entered the park, the evening air wrapped around them like a warm blanket. The sky was painted in hues of gold and pale pink, casting an enchanting glow over everything. Lisa could feel a shift within her, the shadows of her worries felt lightened, even if just a bit. Jake raced ahead to the old treehouse, his laughter ringing through the park like music. Mark and Lisa followed at a slower pace, and for a moment, it felt like they were stepping into a new chapter. He's really something, isn't he? Mark said, a genuine admiration in his voice. Lisa smiled, watching Jake climb up the rickety ladder. Yeah, he is. He has this incredible ability to find joy in the smallest things. There was pride in her words, but also a deep-rooted fear that surfaced like an undertow. What about you? Mark asked, glancing sideways at her with curiosity. What brings you joy? At that moment, Lisa's mind raced. It had been so long since she'd thought of herself in that way. She opened her mouth, but the answer felt like it was trapped behind a dam of responsibilities. I used to love painting, she finally admitted, feeling a mix of embarrassment and nostalgia. But I haven't touched a brush in ages. Why not? Mark pressed gently, his tone encouraging. She let out a shaky breath. I don't know, life just took over, I guess. I wanted to focus on Jake, on surviving. Mark nodded, digesting her words. You deserve to have something just for you. It sounds like it used to make you happy. Couldn't you find a way to get back to it? Maybe, she thought. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying, like a roller coaster ride that she wasn't sure she was ready to take. They reached the treehouse, and Jake was already peering down at them, his face glowing with excitement. You guys should come up. It's awesome up here. With a glance, Mark raised an eyebrow at Lisa, silently asking if she was in too. The hesitation hung in the air, but something in her heart urged her forward. All right, let us do it, she said. As they climbed up, the weight of her earlier doubts began to drift away, replaced by shared lightness. They squeezed into the small space, surrounded by the scent of aged wood and adventure. All the worries of the world felt distant. Jake started a game, telling them they were pirates on a treasure hunt. Lisa played along, her laughter ringing out as she fought off imaginary sea monsters. Mark's playful banter matched Jake's energy perfectly, igniting the moment, but even as laughter bubbled around them, Lisa's phone buzzed again, this time vibrating with a stern urgency. She tucked it deep into her pocket, battling the impulse to pull it out. What was happening at work? Each buzz pulled at her heart, reminding her of the tightrope she walked every day. As the sun dipped lower, casting shadows through the treehouse, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting. Was she ready to let someone else step in? Was Mark really committed? And what if the meeting meant more than just a job for her? Jake, oblivious to the undercurrents around him, leaned into her. This is the best day ever. Lisa looked at him, feeling a warmth that radiated hope, but that doubt lingered. Could she hold on to this happiness and embrace the changes coming her way? The sunset framed their little group in a veil of golden light, but in the depths of Lisa's heart, questions swirled like a storm. Just as she opened her mouth to voice a question, a thought she had been sitting with for far too long, a distant commotion caught her attention. A group nearby seemed to be in distress, voices raised, a sense of urgency that began to seep into the calm of their moment. What was happening? And how would it change everything they had just begun to build? The sounds of distress grew louder, breaking through the joyful noise in the treehouse. Jake paused his game, curiosity flickering across his face. What is that? He asked, looking between Lisa and Mark. Lisa felt a knot tighten in her stomach. I don't know, sweetie. Let us check it out, she replied, her heart racing. As they climbed down from the treehouse, she stole a glance at Mark. He wore a look of concern mixed with determination. The park was bathed in fading light as they approached a small group gathered near the picnic area. A woman knelt on the ground, her face pale and panicked. A boy next to her was sobbing, tugging at her arm. Lisa's instincts kicked in. Is everyone okay? She called out. The crowd parted slightly, revealing the scene more clearly. A bicycle lay on the ground, a scrape of metal against the grass. A man in a dark hoodie was pacing back and forth, his face etched with worry. I can't find him. The woman cried, her voice cracking. He was right here and then. Whatever had just happened felt like a slap to Lisa's joy. A missing child? Her heart ached at the thought. She felt a wave of empathy wash over her, squeezing her chest. Glancing down at Jake, she noticed his eyes widening, taking in the chaos. We should help. Jake exclaimed. Despite his small stature, his voice held a surprising strength. They need us. Mark stepped forward, a strong leader emerging. Okay, let us find out what happened, he said, turning to the distressed mother. What is your son's name? Tommy, she managed, her voice trembling. He was just playing with his friends. I turned my back for a second, please, I can't lose him. While Mark continued to calm and gather information from the mother, Lisa felt the urgency of the moment, her heart pounding in her ears. A million thoughts raced through her mind. What if they weren't able to find him? What if her own worries paled in comparison to this mother's nightmare? Suddenly, she spotted a familiar face in the distance, a boy with bright sneakers playing not far away. "Over there!" she shouted, pointing. "I think he's by the swings." Mark followed her gaze, breaking into a sprint. "Jake, stay with your mom," he called out, but Lisa was already moving. Her instincts kicked in, and she ran toward the swings, the world around her fading as adrenaline drove her forward. She reached the boy, breathless, and knelt beside him. "Hey, sweetie, are you Tommy?" He looked at her wide-eyed, his gaze darting back to the commotion. "My friends, they went to the slides," he replied, his innocence cutting through her panic. With urgency, she took his hand. "Let us go back to your mom, she's worried about you." As they turned, Lisa felt a surge of purpose. It was like the weight of her questions began to shift, as if the promise of a solution to this moment could lead to something deeper for her. They approached where Mark stood, breath still heavy, coaxing the mother into a calm explanation of what had happened. As soon as Tommy saw his mom, he broke into a sprint, and she fell to her knees, embracing him tightly. Lisa felt tears prick her eyes. Life could change in an instant, and she knew how much it meant to hold on to those precious moments. Mark caught her eye, a shared understanding flickering between them. They were part of something bigger in that moment, the importance of connection, of community. Just as she thought they had come together through this, laughter erupted again from Jake, who had been chuckling at the spectacle and the reunion, but just as relief flooded Lisa's veins, another buzz echoed in her pocket, a reminder of the world she had been trying to escape. It was time to confront what awaited her back home. She felt torn. Was she ready to face the reality of her life again? Could she carve out a space for her dreams amidst this chaos? Mark stepped closer, sensing her inner battle. "You okay?" he asked softly, but just as she opened her mouth to not answer, a sudden masked figure burst into view, causing another wave of panic rippling through the crowd. "What now?" whispered Lisa, dread pooling at the pit of her stomach. What else had the day in store for them? And would it bring them together or pull them apart? The figure in the mask sent shockwaves through the crowd. Gasps and murmurs erupted all around. People turned, faces tense, eyes wide with fear and uncertainty. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine as the masked individual took a few purposeful steps forward, and Mark instinctively stepped closer to her, shielding her from view. "What do you want?" someone shouted from the back of the crowd, an uneasy mixture of courage and panic. The masked figure paused, head turning slowly, surveying the audience before pointing toward the source of the voice. Silence. The voice was deep and commanding, though muffled. A trembling chill swept across the park as if the air itself was waiting for something to happen. Lisa's heart raced again, and she grappled with her instincts. Should they run? Should they stand their ground? Mark didn't hesitate. "Stay close to me," he whispered, genuinely serious. Lisa nodded, her fingers instinctively clutching Jake's hand. She stole a glance at her son, who stood so small and innocent next to her. She saw fear flicker in his eyes for just a moment before it transformed into a fierce resolve. "You're brave, buddy," she whispered, hoping to be a source of strength for him. But Jake surprised her. His grip tightened around her hand, and he shifted slightly forward, staring straight at the masked figure. "Who are you?" Jake's voice rang out, childish yet powerful in its defiance. The crowd erupted, half intrigued and half horrified. Lisa's heart raced, worry clashing with admiration for her son's bravery. The figure shifted again, and Lisa felt everyone's attention weighing down like a blanket. I bring a message," the masked stranger replied, voice steady despite the urgency. "There's been a crime in this area, and I need your help." A ripple of confusion spread through the crowd. "Help? From a masked person?" Questions raced through Lisa's mind. "What crime? Why now?" Mark took a step forward, asserting control. "What do you mean? What kind of help?" His voice was steady, cutting through the tension. Lisa felt her heart pounding. She listened intently, willing herself to be calm. The kind where we come together, the figure said, voice clearer becoming. There is something dangerous lurking, and you all need to be aware. I can't reveal everything yet, but I need your trust. Trust? Lisa felt the weight of the world settle heavy on her shoulders. She glanced around. Families, friends, everyone seemed unified in their concern. Yet here was this outsider. Could they trust him? Who sent you? Mark pressed. The crowd leaned in closer, breaths held tight, the air thick with questions yet unasked. Before the masked figure could respond, a sound punctured the tension, a small voice from the back of the crowd. Tommy. It was the mother, her worry returning, her focus on the masked figure, seeking answers but also safety. Lisa could see the fear and desperation play over her face. The crowd shifted nervously, and a hush fell. In that instant, Lisa sensed something shift in the air, a turn of fate. Maybe this was a call for the community to come together, or maybe it was a sign that things were going to get worse. As uncertainty loomed high, a spark ignited within Lisa. She couldn't just stand by. We need to know your story. She called out, her voice steadier than she felt. If we're going to help, you need to tell us everything. The figure hesitated, as if weighing the risk before them. Lisa's heart raced. Would this be the moment they collectively chose to face whatever danger awaited? Then, before anyone could respond, the masked figure took a step back, eyes glinting under the fabric. Fine. But once I reveal this, there's no going back, the figure warned. What do you mean? Someone called out, but the figure had already turned, rushing to the edge of the park, leaving the crowd in stunned silence. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. What had just happened? And what truths lay ahead? In the echo of that unknown, she felt the pull of her own reality, knowing she couldn't run from it. Something deep inside urged her to stay connected, not just to the crowd, but to Mark, to Jake. Whatever came next would challenge everything they knew. What if this was just the beginning? What awaited them in the darkness ahead? The park felt frozen, as though time had paused to take a deep breath. A mixture of disbelief and tension hung in the air. Lisa turned to Mark, anxiety glimmering in her eyes. What just happened? She whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. Mark shook his head, still searching the crowd for answers, his face a mask of concentration. Jake stood resolute beside her, tension etched across his small features. Mom, he said, voice steady despite the chaos. We can't just let him go. What if someone really needs help? Lisa's heart swelled with pride at his bravery, but fear clawed at her insides. But what if it's a trap? She replied, her grip tightening around Jake's hand. What if he leads us into more danger? Mark stepped closer, his brow furrowed. We need to know what's going on. If this guy knows something. He let the sentence trail off, the possibilities racing through his mind. It was hard to ignore the sense that something was about to break wide open. Without thinking, Lisa instinctively began moving toward the edge of the park, where the masked figure had disappeared. Wait! Mark called after her, his tone firm but filled with concern. We don't even know if he is safe. I want to find out the truth, she replied, determination anchoring her voice. This was bigger than just her and Jake. It felt like the whole community was tangled up in this moment. They needed answers. The masked figure was nowhere to be seen, only a few scattered leaves rustling along the park path. Lisa scanned the surroundings, her mind racing. Facing the uncertainty became a comfort. She felt compelled to confront the unknown rather than cower in fear. Suddenly, a shout pierced the air from behind her. It was Tommy's mother again, panic lacing her tone. We can't let them go alone. What if they're in danger? The crowd rushed to join them, converging around Lisa with urgency. Mark stepped forward, positioning himself at the forefront. Everyone! He shouted, his voice booming. Let us not make reckless decisions. We need to figure this out before we chase after a mystery. Lisa felt a tremor beneath her skin, a mix of fear and resolve. We have to make a choice, right now, she urged, her heart racing. "Who is with us?" Jake nodded solemnly, stepping toward the parents beside him. "I want to help Tommy," he declared, and his words resonated like a beacon of hope. The crowd fell quiet at his sincerity. Lisa saw other heads nodding, the grip of fear weakening, giving way to a newfound spirit of solidarity. "Okay," Mark said, letting out a breath. "Let us split into small groups, cover more ground. We'll find this guy if he hasn't gone too far." The crowd murmured agreement, fear transforming into purpose. As Lisa looked around, she noticed a mix of expressions: trepidation, determination, courage. They were stepping away from uncertainty, becoming a collective force. For the first time that day, she felt something shift. They were stronger together. With a deep breath, she turned back toward where the figure had fled, the path ahead momentarily illuminated by the fading sunlight. "Let us go," she said, her voice steady, her resolve hardening. Each footstep toward the unknown felt like a step into a greater story, something waiting to unfold. As they spread out into the park, searching every nook and cranny, the air buzzed with determination. Lisa felt the stirring of something inside her, growing louder with each heartbeat. Change was coming, and it was bigger than any one of them, but just as hope began to take root, a loud crash echoed nearby, instantly slicing through the murmurs of determination. A car screeched to a halt, skidding across gravel, skimming dangerously close to where Lisa stood. What now? The darkness seemed to be growing ever closer. The car's tires screeched against the gravel, sending a spray of pebbles flying. Lisa's heart raced. She instinctively pulled Jake closer, shielding him from the unexpected chaos. The crowd around them gasped, a collective intake of breath as the chaotic moment rid the park of its stillness. Mark rushed toward the car, its engine still roaring like a beast that hadn't yet settled. "Are you okay?" he shouted, his voice loud, cutting through the shock. The driver, a disheveled man in his 30s, stumbled out, his hands raised in surrender, panic breaking across his face. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to," the man stammered, glancing wildly at the crowd. The panic in his eyes mirrored what Lisa felt inside. What in the world was happening? Just then, from a side street, another figure emerged. This one was not masked. It was the man from moments earlier, the one who had vanished into the shadows. He stood quietly, watching the chaos unfold, keenly attentive, his presence now feeling ominous. "Call the police!" someone in the crowd shouted, and Lisa's stomach churned. The energy shifted again, first to disbelief, then to fear. Was the man in the mask connected to this wild driver? Everyone was on high alert, resting on the edge of anxiety. "Why were you driving like that?" Mark confronted the driver, his voice firm. "What happened?" "I swear, I saw something. Something terrible." The driver blurted out. "I was just trying to get away. I didn't mean to scare anyone." His words clashed with the concern plastered across their faces. Lisa's heart raced as she glanced back at the masked man, who hadn't moved. Was he here to help, or was this another layer of the unfolding nightmare? "Help?" Lisa echoed, the word dripped in skepticism. "If you saw something, tell us now." The driver took a deep breath, his hands trembling. "There was someone I thought they were hurt near the old warehouse. It's just around the corner, the one by the tracks. Right before I lost control, I saw someone, dragging something." Panic rippled through the crowd. Lisa sensed the shift in their energy, fear turned into a surge of urgency. "We need to check it out," Jake said, his young voice rising above the murmurs. "We can't wait. If someone needs help we can't just know." Lisa interrupted, pulling back the weight of her protective instincts. "We don't know anything. We can't just run into danger." "But what if it's a trap?" Mark interjected, his gaze flickering between the driver and the masked man, unsure where to place his trust. The masked figure, however, took a step forward, breaking the fragile grip of tension. "I know what's happening. I can help you find the truth. But you have to trust me." The crowd fell silent again, eyes darting back to Lisa. She could feel Jake's small hand tightening around hers. Trust? She questioned, searching the masked man's eyes. How can we trust you after everything we just went through? He paused, the air around them thickening. Because we share the same enemy. If you want to save Tommy, we don't have time to waste. The gravity of his words hung in the air, a heavy promise of clarity buried beneath layers of uncertainty. Lisa felt the weight of the decision clawing at her chest. Should she give in, step into the unknown once more? With one final glance at Jake, she understood the choice she had to make. All right, she said slowly, every word heavy with meaning. We'll follow you. But if you lead us into danger, I won't hesitate to protect my son. As the masked man started walking towards the street where the warehouse lay, Lisa and Mark followed, flanked by their small cohort of concerned parents. They marched forward into the gathering shadows, uncertainty clawing at their backs. In that moment, a chilling sound echoed from the warehouse, cutting through the silence of their fears. It was a low, desperate cry. What would they find inside? The air turned electric as they approached the warehouse, the sound of that anguished cry ricocheting off the gritty walls. Lisa's heart pounded in her chest, fear wrapping around her like a thick fog. She felt Jake clinging to her side, his small body trembling. The fear was palpable among the group, but curiosity pushed them forward. With each step, the intensity of the cry grew louder, weaving through the air like a desperate plea. Lisa's instincts screamed at her to turn back, to wrap Jake in her arms and shield him from whatever horrors lay ahead. But the memory of that anguished voice ignited a flicker of resolve within her. Mark reached out, brushing his fingers along the cold metal door handles. Are you ready? He whispered, glancing back at Lisa. His eyes reflected the grim determination she felt. We can't just leave without knowing. No, we can't, she replied, steadying her breath. She shot a glance to the masked man, who stood just a few paces ahead. His presence was both reassuring and unsettling. But we need to be careful. We don't know what we're walking into. With a firm push, Mark yanked the doors open, and they creaked ominously. The darkness spilled out like an invitation, beckoning them closer. Lisa and Jake exchanged a tense look. The echo of the cry grew louder, reverberating through the hollow space inside. Stay close to me, Lisa whispered, gripping Jake's hand tighter. Inside, beams of moonlight filtered through the dusty windows, illuminating a scene that sent chills through her veins. Shadows danced menacingly across the concrete floor, and in the far corner, she caught a glimpse of someone crouched, their silhouette trembling. Hello. Mark called, his voice laced with caution. The figure froze, then slowly turned. A young woman emerged from the darkness, her face smeared with dirt, and eyes wide with fear. Please help me. She gasped, her voice hoarse. What happened? Lisa stepped forward, her heart aching for the girl's visible distress. The woman pointed shakily to a pile of discarded crates. Over there. I saw them take him. I tried to help, but the words tumbled out like a waterfall, each one weighted with terror. Who took him? Jake's small voice piped up, breaking the heavy silence. The masked man stepped closer. The same people who are after you, Lisa. We need to move now. Fear pulsed through her again. What do you mean? Who are you? What do you know about Tommy? Your son is in danger, and they won't stop until they get what they want. We can't waste a second, he replied, urgency surging in his voice, but the young woman interrupted. They left a mark on him. He's in a room at the back. You have to hurry before they return. Lisa's breath caught. The mention of Tommy ignited a fierce determination within her. We need to go, she said urgently. Mark, can you stay with her? Yes, I'll keep her safe, he replied, his face grim yet resolute. Come on, Jake, Lisa urged, pulling him along. The shadows felt heavier as they navigated through the labyrinth of crates and debris, every sound magnified in the tense silence. Mom. Jake's voice quivered. What if they come back? She squeezed his hand, trying to exude confidence. "We'll be fine. I promise." They reached the back room, the air thick with dread as Lisa pushed the door open. Inside, the sight that met her eyes made her blood run cold. Tommy was there, bound and barely conscious. Rage broke forth from her chest, igniting her every nerve. "Tommy!" She screamed, rushing over to him, but as her hands reached for his restraints, a loud crash echoed from the entrance they had just come through. "They're here." Panic surged through her veins. The masked man stood rigid, staring into the gathering darkness at the door. "Get him out!" he shouted. All at once, the stakes surged as the door splintered, and rough hands reached in, eager to reclaim their prize. What would they do now? Lisa's heart raced as chaos erupted in the cramped room. The masked figure stood firmly, defiance radiating from him as he shielded Tommy. Mark burst in behind them, his jaw clenched, eyes darting between the door and the hazards closing in. "Get him to safety, now," the masked man urged, stepping forward to confront the impending threat. His stance was surprisingly steady, betraying an undercurrent of determination that felt like a beacon for Lisa. Without thinking, Lisa grabbed Tommy's hand, urgency igniting every muscle in her body. "Jake, stay close," she shouted, yanking the boy toward the exit. They barreled through the back door, the adrenaline pushing them forward. Outside, the night air hit her like a wave, wild and liberating. Mark was already ahead, scanning for a path to safety. "This way," he called, motioning to a side alley flanked by garbage bins and flickering streetlights. As they dashed into the alley, Lisa turned, her gut twisting. The masked figure stood firm, helping fend off the advancing danger. "What are you doing?" "Come on," she screamed, frustration mingling with fear. "I'll hold them off." "Just go," he shouted, voice piercing through the panic. She felt a crack of uncertainty, but a quick glance at Mark's fierce loyalty steeled her heart. She couldn't hesitate now. They raced around the corner, adrenaline propelling them. The sounds of chaos grew quieter, but the fear clung stubbornly to her thoughts. "We need to find somewhere safe." Mark gasped, his breath a mix of urgency and exhaustion. "There's a garage at the end of the street." Jake piped up, looking up at Lisa with wide eyes. "I saw it when we first got here." Lisa nodded, guiding them swiftly toward the promise of refuge. They reached the garage, hastily pushing aside the creaking door. It was dimly lit by a single bulb hanging above a rusted workbench. With a deep breath, Lisa ushered them inside. "Stay quiet," she whispered, heart pounding like a drum as they huddled together. Her eyes darted to Jake's small, frightened face, and the weight of her protectiveness surged within her. The garage door rattled behind them. Lisa pressed her ear against the cool metal, fear blossoming in her chest. "What if they find us?" Jake whispered, voice quivering. "They won't," she replied, though doubt lingered in her mind. She knew the masked figure had chosen to face the danger alone for them. The thought struck her like a cold wave. The stakes were not just hers, but also Jake's and now Tommy's. Moments felt like hours, but finally, relief washed over her as she spotted movement outside. Mark cautiously approaching, the masked figure right behind him, his stride steady. "We're okay." Mark panted, ushering them deeper into the shadows. The masked man leaned against the wall, out of breath but focused. "They didn't follow yet." "What now?" Lisa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We regroup," Mark said, light re-entering his eyes. "Get a plan. The police are on their way. We need to keep Tommy safe until they arrive." Lisa looked at Tommy, whose expression reminded her of Jake, a child straddling innocence and the terrifying reality of vulnerability. "We need to reassure him," she urged softly, with gentle hands. She knelt beside him, placing a comforting arm around his shoulders. "You're okay now, Tommy. You're safe with us," she said, her voice steady as she held his gaze. The boy trembled slightly, but there was a spark of relief in his eyes. I thought I lost my mom," he whispered, a tear slipping down his cheek. I know, Lisa murmured, but you didn't. We have your back now. Jake moved closer, offering his small hand to Tommy, a gesture of solidarity and childlike empathy that enveloped the moment with warmth. Suddenly, it hit Lisa this was more than just a struggle for survival, they were all interconnected in this fight. We will figure this out together, she declared, her strength and belief binding them as they faced the unknown as a unit. The masked figure's gaze shifted to her, and for the first time, she caught a glimpse of something human beneath the mask. You. Helping him, that shows real courage. Courage is just fear turned into strength, Lisa replied fiercely, her conviction growing as she drew power from each of them. If we face this together, we can do anything. As they huddled closer, weaving their stories together through renewed hope, the sound of sirens echoed in the distance, a light breaking through the darkness. Just then, the door creaked open, flooding the dim garage with light. A spotlight illuminated the corner where they sheltered, and they flinched back instinctively. Down! Down! A voice shouted, urgency slicing through the air, yet, amidst the fear, the flood of safety that washed over them was palpable. The police were there. Mark stepped up, pulling the mask from the figure's face, revealing a man with kind eyes who looked just as relieved as they did. Lisa tightened her grip on Jake, who looked up in wonder, realizing perhaps, they were all in this together, against all odds. The night felt heavy, but it also felt like the beginning of connection, of trust and transformation. She glanced at Mark, who nodded towards her with gratitude. They had faced darkness together, and while shadows may always linger, beyond them lay the promise of a brighter dawn, ready to embrace them all. In that moment, Lisa realized they had not just survived a night of chaos, they had shaped a new reality forged from vulnerability, strength, and the undeniable bonds of family and community. Together, she whispered, smiling softly at Jake, who grinned back, hope shining bright in his eyes. This was their moment, a moment to reclaim the power of connection and rise anew. Now, the journey forward awaited them, not just as individuals but as a family woven together through resilience, and she was ready. Now is the time to subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss any of the next exclusive stories unfolding from moments just like this. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let others discover the power in these transformations. Every bit helps. Comment below and share your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending, letting us connect even more deeply. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see just how powerful community and courage can be. Don't wait not even one more second. Be the fans who uplift stories like these.